You find the horse covered in blood. What do? Well, I want to go for a saddlebags. Well, you did just kill this horse's owner, so this horse is very spooked. So how do you go about it? I'll just pet him, you know. Are you okay? You know, gentle, easy boy, good boy, that kind of thing. Once I feel like it's safe, I need to know what's in those saddlebags. And as you reach for those saddlebags, make your animal handling check, please. To play the most immersive game of D&D, but you don't know exactly what you need to get your game to that next level, or maybe you just watched my GTA 5 video and you're like, now what? Or maybe you are already running a world or are currently a player in a world that could be more lively. Well, worry not, because with the Red Dead method, your sandbox will feel like a real place, and one that your players will never ever want to leave. But before we get to all those good and juicy bits, let's address the elephant in the room when it comes to these Rockstar style sandboxes. Adult content. It's no secret that Rockstar's games are, shall we say, adult oriented.
You got money to spare, folks, so give it all to me. And I mean now.
In a sandbox where you can make any choice, Rockstar Games, more than any studio, allows you to go all the way with your bad deeds. And they respect the player's decisions by having the world react realistically to the things that they do, usually by the wanted system. Plainly put, running a sandbox isn't really for the faint of heart. You have to be okay with the possibility that the players will behave villainously. But such is the nature of free will, which is an issue that has caused mayhem in religious and philosophical debate since Eve ate the fruit and since Cain killed Abel. You're not going to solve this dilemma at your table, so don't try to. If you present a world where the PCs can make any choice, then guess what? They're gonna make any choice. And they might not be choices that you personally agree with. It's incredibly important to be as unbiased as possible when this happens. But on the other hand, I would say be completely frank with your players about your boundaries. GTA allows you to go on a straight up shooting spree at any time, but maybe you as a GM or game master don't have it in you to run a player through a mass shooting. You know, that's okay. Similarly, set your boundaries as a player. If there's content you definitely don't want to witness or be anywhere near, then be frank about it straight from session 0. And sidebar, have a session 0. Stupid. Once you agree on boundaries, then you can start adding whatever you want. You can portray benevolent as well as horribly despicable NPCs and give your players the chance to witness the full spectrum of people living in your world, which will make your sandbox feel truer to life where there are many more shades of gray. However, it's vital to make sure that your adult content is never presented in a way where your players are going to literally have to participate in it, thereby stealing their agency. Never make them participate in a torturing or in a sex scene or make them use hard drugs, you know, that kind of stuff. But you can 100% show those things happening in your world, and done right, this mature content can make for excellent adult stories. The key as a player and as a GM both is to just never introduce adult topics that you yourself aren't fully comfortable exploring. And once you do introduce a theme or a situation, then you gotta have tough enough skin to not balk at the decisions that your players make, or where your dungeon master takes the scenario after your character does or says a certain thing. Your players may kill people who literally don't deserve it in your eyes. They may cheat, they may run scams, they may target people or otherwise hurt innocents. So again, if you plan as a player or as a game master of acting out any content that's stronger than a 15 in the UK or PG-13 in America, then definitely have that session 0. And if in that session 0 you all decide, hey, we're just gonna let the cards lay as they lie and anything goes. Well, if you set that stage, then trust me, if anything goes, it will go there. So be ready. Some people feel like having adult content in their game at all is playing with fire, and so they just avoid it altogether. That's okay. But if you do choose to go the rated R or even the X-rated route, then you need to be respectful of both yourself and your other players. In my professional games, which people pay me for, I often include very strong adult themes, including even child harm, child death, even explicit sex, sexual violence even. So it can be done, and it can be done correctly, but it can definitely be done in a wrong way as well. And so if you want to know how I go about handling R-rated or even X-rated content at my 18+ tables, then let me know. But with that disclaimer out of the way, let's identify the parts that we should add to our sandbox to make it as believable and as lively as Red Dead. These points aren't listed in any specific order of importance, and I do plan to elaborate more on these points in their own videos. So as I go, do please leave a comment on which bullet point you'd like to see an entire video on, and those will be the points that I focus on. Adelante. Your world's reaction. This is the next big thing that I like to think about, though it's not necessarily more important than these other points. It's something that's always at the forefront of my mind. Try to think about how your world is going to respond to different threats, different situations. I highly suggest at least pondering the kinds of different emergency services that are available in your world. Are there first responders, such as ambulances? Are there firefighters? Might be great to know if you have an evocation wizard in your party. In Red Dead, we can see the world push back, mostly in its wanted system, where the police show up in increasingly large droves to stop your crime spree, or the bounty system, where you're tracked down if you escape. But in a roleplay game, we can flesh out these things even further. Watch this other video to see how I personally handle player crime. Now, more than anything, the type of government that you have is probably going to determine how your setting reacts to certain behaviors, so you'll likely want to figure that out first. In my personal experience though, law enforcement is almost always the first aspect of my world that gets tested by the players. So a word of advice, if you're running a good game, then it is very likely that your adventurers will be under an amount of strain, which means that any session might be the session that character snaps. Some souped up 8th level wizard fireballs, some shopkeeper over a trade dispute. Your setting should have a response for that, be it a magical police force or just some good old fashioned vigilante justice. And while your PCs are running from that angry mob, they'll likely be thinking about transport. This is vehicles, mounts. How do people get around in your world, and how much money do these different modes of travel cost? How common are things like horses and cars? Are they considered even luxury items perhaps? Can you travel by wagon, caravan, boat, plane, spaceship, train? What are the different varieties of vehicles or mounts even? Your game might already tell you how to adjudicate this, and you may already have stats for cars or horses for you to use. Familiarize yourself with these stat blocks, because in a sandbox, the party's gonna need to move from place to place, and they may need to travel faster than a walking pace. From session 1 or maybe even session 2, your players will be interacting with the transportation in your setting. Now, if you're playing 5e, then you'll have to homebrew anything that's not a mule or horse. 5e also does not provide a solid system for overland travel or for urban travel, so you will need to homebrew your own system or download one of the many excellent third-party expansions for 5e travel. And while the party's cruising around on their fancy horses or their fancy cars, they're sure to have this is pretty much as good as that's gonna get. But by encounters, of course, I do mean random encounters.
I'll take some skill to use one of these. Looks real nice. I'll do as a damn well. Oh, Jesus Christ! No! That don't look good! You're bleeding! Oh, Jesus! You need to go see the doctor! Checking the holster!
Think of these as ways to naturally introduce your players to your setting and inject some lore into the world. Don't skip out on these random events. Just don't do it. Always be thinking of cool or funny things that can randomly happen, but that can really only happen in your setting so that it stands out.
Well, don't go easy on them. I need to be taught a lesson. Oh, yeah, that's more like it. Close the drapes. If you tell us so, I swear I'll kill you.
Thank you for the show.
The world of Red Dead feels so alive because as you travel around, there's always different and interesting things constantly occurring for you to witness. All sandboxes stand to benefit from these unprovoked events.
Anyone else want to get a good look? Huh?
Yeah, I see you. I ain't impressed.
Oh, you got hungry eyes? Let's go! Let's go! His mama should have
And even if your players decide to avoid that encounter altogether, they'll still appreciate the spectacle and feel that they're inhabiting a world that exists outside of just their characters. And again, you don't want to do too much for these encounters. Really, these are very short. All you need is a little improv and a little theater of the mind. Sidebar. It's perfectly fine to improvise on the fly. You cannot predict everything that your players are going to do, and so don't feel pressured to. If something comes up that you just can't improvise for on the spot, that is the time to call a timeout. D&D is a long form game, so it's perfectly okay to have a halftime. Call a 15-minute snack break, and then that's when you have the time to think about what the next steps are going to be. If you found suddenly that you needed a map, then now's the time to download one, or better yet, just scrawl one up yourself. But don't go crazy. This map just needs to get the point across, and it's really just as quick and easy as this. And while I get chipping away at this map, I also just want to take the time to personally thank our first 5 patrons who keep humbling me every month with your continued generosity. And if you too, dear viewer, have found any useful information in my videos, or if anything I've said has injected more joy or fun into your life or games, then please consider supporting the channel through Patreon. There are 2 tiers, and for less than 18 cents per day, which is much cheaper than a cup of coffee, you can help keep the channel afloat. Both tiers get you access to all of my uncensored commercial-free videos, and the higher tier even gets you a bit of monthly content that you can use in your games, which can be anything from weapons, armor, items, maps, systems, mechanics, etc. But you can make suggestions on that monthly content. This really is the very best way to support the channel. I put my all into every single video tone because I want each season of this web show to stand on its own for years to come. But because I don't water down my videos to milk out more content, well, they take more time to come out with and cost me more money to release. On top of that, the fewer releases mean that I don't make any ad revenue from YouTube. Now, it's still far off, but our goal is to raise enough money to increase production quality of these tomes and get some actual camera equipment, lights, as well as hire an editor so that we can increase our output from 1 to 2 videos per month to 1 to 2 videos per week. And as a pro GM, I've also developed and playtested pages upon pages of custom content that I would like to publish into books and modules for you all. So again, each donation truly means the world, and I can wholeheartedly promise you that I will use your investment 10,000 times more responsibly than Hasbro or any of these other corporations we continue to pay. And if a monthly patron pledge isn't for you, then you can still support the channel with a one-time donation through the Super Thanks button below the video. But look at that, map done, and just that quickly. And it doesn't need to be perfect, just clear. You can do this quickly for any encounter, and a dry erase board makes this process even faster. If you're online, then I just keep a pack of random maps on standby. So we've taken our break, we used the bathroom, thought of the next thing, we scrawled up a little map, and now we're ready to play again. That simple. And to further add some depth to the different types of encounters that I run, I also do something that I call petty encounters. These much shorter events, these day-to-day mishaps, are something that any traveler might face, and I usually reserve them for when a player rolls a nat 1, but I don't want to completely halt or interrupt their travel, or maybe I just want to inject a little drop of humor. So then maybe an NPC empties their chamber pot right where the player is walking and they need to make a dex save to avoid trouble. Or perhaps they just straight up step into a giant horse turd. Situations like this can be incredibly hilarious while still being painfully realistic. These surprisingly mundane mishaps are usually welcomed to by the player who rolled that nat 1 because they'll know that they rolled a nat 1, it could have been much worse than it actually was. Plus, this gives the entire party a moment to role play out something that's pretty humorous while still acknowledging that nat 1 in a way that isn't overly punishing. Mixing mishaps with random encounters will elevate the immersiveness of your world to a whole new level. But you'll want to have some beefier quests in mind too that pertain to your setting, and these are going to be side quests. These are more than your random encounter because a side quest is going to give you a lot more content than any encounter, and these could take even multiple sessions to resolve. A good side quest intensifies the world building and gives you a chance to introduce different factions in your world in a meaningful way. The main quest will get the job done, yeah, But in Red Dead, the side quests are what give the main quest all of its meaning. Side quests usually involve a major NPC or an important side character and will require some planning on the GM's part. Now, you can incentivize your players to participate in these by making completing side quests very useful for completing the main quest, whatever that's going to be. This makes the side quests feel consequential, because they will be consequential. And if you have any NPCs that you need to be important to the story, well, in the side quest is how you showcase them.
You're a good friend to me, Arthur.
Cheers.
That is when you give that character something to do unrelated to the main quest, and how they behave there is going to show your party why they should care about that NPC. Red Dead 2 puts us in numerous life or death situations with our side characters, but by spending time with them, it makes their eventual deaths that much more potent. So be thinking about how you can weave important characters in and out of these side plots. And if you don't have any side quests already planned at the start of your campaign, then actually that's perfectly fine, because ideas for side quests will come up as your players play. Still, try to at least know what factions or what characters are important, so that way you can know which characters are most likely to be involved in those side quests when they start to emerge. Now, if your players have been out all day questing, having encounters, transporting themselves all around, and the world is reacting to them, which means they're in all kinds of trouble, then at the end of the day, your players are definitely going to want downtime, side activities. Visiting a tavern is like the most basic side activity, but that's just the tip of the iceberg of endless possibilities, and you can find more downtime ideas in the DMG and the Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Side activities give your world that simulation feel, because it allows the players to role play as if they actually live in that world and are not just adventuring in it. Try to reward players for participating in these activities by having them provide some boon, be it money or experience, special outfits or items, extra lore, or even plot threads, whatever. Now, players can choose to fully engage with these activities or ignore them completely. That's really up to them. But you should always reward your players for taking the time to experience what it's like to really live in your world. And here's a list of downtime activities not found in the DMG, but that players have done at my table. This seems like a lot, and well, it is, but you should really only be picking 3 to 5 activities at all anyway to introduce into your sandbox, and only pick those side activities that really sell the fantasy of what your sandbox is going for. Do not, however, throw all options at your players. It's way too much. However, if you do run your sandbox for a while and you find that your players want to do some other things that are not activities that you've provided for them, only then do you go ahead and add new mechanics or homebrew something new. And if your players are spending a lot of time questing, they are having a lot of encounters, and they are engaging with the downtime activities, then they'll probably be making a good deal of coin. So you need to know what kinds of things they can spend that coin on, and I call that swag. As your players adventure, they're going to acquire an insane amount of loot. My advice, give them as many ways as possible to spend it. Every luxury item that their little beady eyes rest on should be purchasable for an expensive price point. Few things are as rewarding as burning all the loot you've hoarded since first level on a magnificent white horse, fine silk clothes, jewelry, or luxury player mansion. Having displays of wealth lets your players tangibly feel their progress in that sandbox. You want a jewel encrusted longsword with a golden handle and an elvish poem engraved down the center with a blade? Done. You want your own keep, your own wizard tower? Done. Private helicopter to fly around Night City? You got it. Red Dead allows you to fully customize and splurge, from horses to weapons and even clothes. Allowing the PCs to splurge is a great reward, because it lets the players look like the wealthy character they've become, but it's purely cosmetic, meaning there's not going to be any power creep. The party can still feel powerful in the world because of their wealth, and you can really sell this by having the NPCs comment on just how spiffy the PCs are looking.
Shit fire, that horse is better looking than my wife.
And whoo! That's it. I was at a lot. My throat's a little raspy and dry, but this is it. This is everything I've seen that goes into creating that Rockstar Red Dead immersive style sandbox. And maybe I've missed one or two things. You guys can let me know in the comments down below if there is anything I missed. Also, please do like and subscribe if you found anything useful in this video. As I said, each one of these points is really just a brief overview that I gave in this video, and I would like to make further videos detailing these even more. So please do go into the comments and let me know which one of these points you would like to see made into a video next time. I also run professional games of D&D as well as many other roleplay games on startplaying.games. So to see the depth of what TTRPGs can be, please do come join me there. Links in the description below. But again, thanks for watching. Be safe, look after yourself and each other, and I'll see all of you in the next one.